Hello, beautiful sunshines. Welcome to Now That's Love
with your favorite mother-daughter duo, Ashlyn and
Janae where you get to know thyself, love thyself, and be the best version of self.
Because the greatest love story you are ever going to tell is the one you create with yourself every day. Hello, everybody. Today we are going to be talking all about the healing process of the inner child wound. So on our previous episode, we were talking about the 7 signs to know that you need to heal that. But today we are going to be diving deeper and walking you guys through this process. So our inner child was one or more of these things. It was naive, it was underprotected, underdeveloped, underguided. You didn't really have like that connection with your family, possibly. I feel like as women too, we were told to make pretty and be nice, don't hurt anyone's feelings, and keep your mouth shut. And as men, I've heard a lot from men that it's be tough, be macho, don't cry. And so you had to keep things bottled in. And none of that was okay. You needed to be heard. You needed to be understood in those emotions that you were feeling at the moment. So without resolving these issues or circumstances now that we face as children, these emotions bubble up to the surface and fluster now in our current relationships, causing attachment issues, trust issues, intimacy issues. And just like we talked back on our last episode, since we never knew how to face these emotions when we were young, we don't know how to properly communicate or act at times. So now we lack boundaries. We're disconnected from the world. We feel like we don't fit in. I know many people around the world that are feeling so anxious. There's so much going on, and there's so many things we haven't dealt with from our past or even just recently that we're still walking through. So you're not feeling enough. And like we said, it leads to numbing out with alcohol, drugs, self-harm, and eating disorders. But now we are giving you guys the space in this episode to hug your inner child. Nurture the child that needed that warm embrace and was like, I hear you, I feel you, I'm sorry that you're hurting right now, or just another guardian in your life that you needed at that time. Now you are the adult to hold your hand and give yourself guidance and words of affirmation and protection that was lacking when you were young. So I'm so excited to hop on this with all you guys and walk through this process. So my mom's going to give us some amazing tips moving forward.
Right. Okay. I am. So there are really clinically studied effective ways to help heal your inner child and show up for her, him, that move you forward in stepping off a hamster wheel. I can remember so many times thinking, oh my goodness, I've got to step off this hamster wheel. And yeah, one of the ways that we can find that hamster wheel is writing down. So we've talked about that so many times, but go to just maybe even what's currently in your relationships that's causing suffering or not understanding, and write it down. Some things are so deep that we've talked about before that you'll probably need some help or like a community to really, like they say, AA and Codependence Anonymous, that's really, really effective. And we have you here for our community too. Just write things down below. But writing is number one. And it says, how did you want to be cared for by the parent figure, the caretaker? And then do that for them right now. So you write out. Number 2 would be write out a story, as many details as possible. Visualize being back there if you can. The child that's hurt, terrorized, ignored, or was controlled. Like, let's just say that most of the parents out there really truly aren't sitting there thinking of a game plan to kick you out. It's just from their unconscious programming themselves. And so we get to be the ones to break the cycle. And, but we don't break the cycle unless we go back there.
Yes.
Number 3, speak it out to yourself. Now you might feel like you're going crazy, but say you're even in the car and these thought processes are coming or something comes up, and then talk it out. I'm here for you. That must have really hurt. I can remember how when you wanted that your father to show up to your game
Or your dance recital.
game after game after game, and he promised that he was going to come pick you up, or whatever the scenario is. You can start laying these out. Or when you went, this might be a trigger warning, so you can skip forward, but you went to sleep and you had no idea that a caretaker would try to do things to you and you didn't even understand sexually, or activities.
Or your dad comes home from work and you feel like you have to be on eggshells, running up the stairs of what they're going to say or even what they're going to do. You might have faced physical abuse that if you said one wrong thing, then it was going to be lashed out on you.
Right. And what about the situation of now going to your parent and wanting to talk things out and feel heard, because now you can actually conceptualize like, okay, this actually was really wrong, or this really hurt me, or this kind of changed the trajectory of my life because it's a big event that happened, and just wanting to feel heard or talk it out. Not that they necessarily need to, see things the way you do, but you go to them and they're like, I don't want to talk about it. Aren't you already over this? Why are you still on this? Like, why don't you move forward or whatever? And you're so invalidated.
Or I don't remember that. That's a key one.
Yeah, that's a big one. And so that's why self-talk and writing things down can be your things, which will pop us into the pen pal idea. So this has been really effective, where you are the little girl or little boy, the inner child that's pen paling to that parent figure. So this is very effective too if you maybe had a parent pass away that you're wanting to have this communication with. So you're writing as a little child to that parent figure, and then how would they respond? And then underneath that, be that parent that you wanted to show up and write. If I could do it differently for my higher self, because I'm now in heaven, or now in a place of love, this is what I would want to say to you. It's very therapeutic to do that, and you can write back and forth on all different situations that are popping up. When I was 7, this happened, and when I went and had my birthday party and nobody showed up, whatever it is, it doesn't even have to be that. Say you had a birthday party, and you invited a whole bunch of kiddos and nobody shows up but one child. How do you feel? And or if you're really, really grew up in a home that's very poor, didn't have a lot of money, and everybody's supposed to bring something to school, and you're the kid that brings a package of graham crackers for the cookies because that's all they have, and that really legitimately is all they had. But then all the kids teach you because they don't understand, and then but these are all things that can be cause dis-ease within your body that you want to face, walk it through. It's not like you wake up in the morning and be like, okay, I'm going to spend all my day analyzing this. This is just when things pop up and you start to see your relationships ending in the same similar way.
And I also think too that for my fellow parents out there that have kids, I know that whenever I became a mom, and even I know people that have become dads and moms themselves, I think it hits harder. You look at your little precious angel. I look at him, and just even talking about him, I just get so emotional because he's like my little baby. And I just look at him and I'm like, who could ever hurt you? Who could ever tell you to like stop talking? Or even I can't even imagine raising my hand towards them. Or like some people out there that have been abandoned by their mom or dad, you start looking at them like, why did you abandon me? Why did you not want to be around me? And I think that can hit so hard. I mean, you think about it, even pre-parent, you don't understand. But I think especially stepping into that parent role that I'm in, there's so many things that Jerome and I sit down and talk about that we're like, we can't even imagine doing this to our kids. How is this even possible that this stuff happens in this world? Because we just constantly want to guide and protect him. And even with our future kid, that's what we want to do. So I think whenever you are able to analyze even deeper, I think that's when your wounds can that's when they started bubbling up for me.
Yeah. They become so real. And what would you do differently? And a lot of times, I think that's what's happening with the generations. Is one
Mm-hmm.
generation was this way, the next generation, some of them really chose to break free from a lot of the trauma bonds or the little
Yeah.
trauma, and then
And I
each
will give
generation I
credit to
see.
social media nowadays too, that there's more conscious parents out there, like posting conscious
Right,
parenting, speaking to their child in a non-superior manner. They're talking to their child like a human being, like they actually are, with feelings and needing to be heard. And I'm so grateful for social media bringing that to the forefront, because I think that my generation is like, hey, my mom and dad dealt with this from their parents, and we can stop and break some of these habits, and our kids don't have to suffer through
right,
deep tea trauma. And I'm not saying that my son is not going to have he might be 22 coming to me and saying, hey mom, that time you did this or said this, it kind of hurt my feelings. And yes, I'll take ownership of it because I have that consciousness of wanting him to feel heard. But it doesn't make us perfect parents. It just
no, we're not trying to strive to be there. We're just doing our best, just like our parents. We know that as conscious or unconscious they were is what we received. That's just what they were given. And so I'm going to be very vulnerable right now in this moment with three children. With my oldest, I was around my family a lot, and uh, like parental figures. I moved away when Ashlyn was just little.
yeah.
So I had seen spanking for doing anything wrong, well, a lot of things wrong, or a fly swatter. I don't know if anybody's had the fly swatter generations, but um, so we hid and didn't want. I remember my dad chasing me around the house in the backyard and all the way around the house, and I had taken with my twin brother. He was chasing after us, and we ran into the rose bushes. There was a big tree in the front, and then there was rose bushes. And as we were so desperate to not let him spank us or hurt us, that I came out finally because he was giving us the threats. And he's a good man, so don't get me wrong. This is just how he was taught. But I had rose thorns all cut up, and he looked at me. He's like, "Well, it looks like you got what you deserved."
Mm.
And so that would put in the very beginning of my little 3, 4, 5 year old age of not. I mean, I'm just going to be real, like, you know,
And even through
spanking for
time, I
me.
think it's like the first child sometimes gets it the hardest, or even the first, you had 8 siblings or 7 siblings. So it sometimes gets better throughout time. Like I've noticed that,
Yeah,
even just in our family unit, it's like the oldest, sometimes they're the guinea pig. You don't know any better. And then by the second child, you're like, okay, I know a little bit more. I know how to handle situations. And then by the third child, it's like, that's why I think
that's
social media kind of teases on that the third child, you're like, why, you didn't have to endure any of the shit I
well,
endured.
and all the
No
food falls on
spanking,
the
no
ground and you
time
still let him
out.
eat it, right? Well, and that's where I was going to go with that, is that I noticed with my first child, I still was a lot more adapted to how I was raised, and he got spanked. And I was in a college class, and we were talking about it. It was in psychology, and um, I had to, in ethics and values, I started to question a lot of things.
Mm,
And with Ashlyn, she was like, I don't even know if you got spanked, maybe once or twice. And then
twice.
my
I think
youngest
I
didn't.
talked back a couple times and got a little smacked in the face, but
My dad would always say, "Follow through with what you say," and
Mhm.
so there was a situation where I said something and I'm like, oh, I hope she doesn't fall through with what she said, because I got to fall through with what I
So
said.
many times.
And but then you get to my
Don't fall through.
youngest, and so this is kind of what I want to say. All three of my children have blossomed beautifully and are amazing souls. Going through the teenage years, though, there was a difference that happened. And even in going to school, in the grade school, the youngest being, like Ashlyn said, the guinea pig, the self-confidence factor and different things of, I really have to say, like, my children know that I've come to them about my things. They don't even have to come to me about a lot of things. I'm like, you know what? If I would have known better, I would have done better. I am so sorry. So,
and I'm grateful that I have that. I'm grateful that I have a mom that's, if I come to you and I say, hey, like when I was 5 years old, I think that was a little T trauma that you didn't show up to this, or,
right.
I mean, I literally looked up to my mom as like a superhero. And I think as I've gotten older, not even so much my immediate family, but my external family out of that, I realized, oh, we all have our journey in life that we take, and we're not all perfect human beings. Like I put everyone on this huge pedestal.
No. And we weren't like long huggers in our family. And so I had to learn how to hug longer for my children, because especially my boys wanted to hug and hug and hug. And I had to get comfortable with that. But we can break anything. There's nothing that's so set in stone. There is absolutely nothing set in stone. So what do you want it to be like? And I don't want my story to be that, my dad broke so many things that he came from, and I'm so proud of him. He's a wonderful, wonderful, wonderful man, and so is my mother. But I had to go back to these places to see why I feared this, or why I was this.
It's our job.
Yeah, it's our job to know thyself, and we have to get rid of the idea that we are not our subconscious programming, that is not us. That is not us. And so we move now into this one that's so much fun of healing, and it's so exciting to talk about. And that is, go back to being a little girl or little boy, doing the things that you didn't get to do. So let's say you came from a home, and all your life you kept on asking your father for a skateboard, and now you're 35 years old and you never got that skateboard. Go get your skateboard. Go get your skateboard.
Or even just going fishing with your dad. I think that's like, an old thing that it's like catching the ball with your dad, or the baseball with your dad. Those moments that you wanted quality time with them. Because sometimes we didn't feel heard in our different love languages, like quality time, gifts, presents, words. So give that to yourself now. So go and spend some quality time just with yourself. Go and, even maybe whenever you're doing that, talk to that little kid self and say, we are here. We're doing this now. Isn't this so exciting, little Johnny?
If you've gone fishing and you're sitting there next to your dad, I mean, he's not really there, but like, or maybe he can. Maybe you can invite him, like wherever you're at with your relationship.
Come
like,
take
hey, Dad,
seat.
I bought you a fishing pole because I'm making money. And foods are fun, or the place you ever wanted to go, but nostalgic foods that go back to that little thing, the music that you listened to back in the 80s or 90s or whatever. Listen to it, like tap into what brought you joy in your innocence. That can pull you out in a beautiful way. So now you're doing all these things, but you're doing the work, but you're also creating a space that's the little sweet self that loved. There were certain things you did. Maybe you really always wanted to do certain things. Like say if you really wanted to be in the music band or something, you just knew you were a drummer or whatever. But your dad was like, no, you're going to be a doctor. In our household, it's only a lawyer or a doctor. This could be your side gig. We didn't know back then. And like Ashlyn said, there's so much beautifulness out there now. And I really feel like the generation that's coming to earth now is so much more awake. And they're also having very much more conscious parenting. And me at my age, there's things that I would have done differently, but now I can show up for my children now.
And even grandkids
love them
now.
to pieces. And my grandkids are going to be like,
My
But
grandma's
I
awesome.
love, yeah, my children know how much I deeply love them. Like the connection is so deep and real.
Well, whenever
And
I was kind of connecting to my inner child as well, I like we mentioned I on like working through things on our previous podcast, I was baking and cooking and even recently being pregnant and just even facing just the emotions of bringing another life in. And then on top of that, on my first podcast, there was a lot of emotions, so many emotions that went into talking about my 5 stages of grief during postpartum. And I automatically turned to what kept me comforted, and that was my mom's amazing frickin' cooking whenever I was little. So I was making pumpkin chocolate chip muffins and chicken pot pie and just all those special yummy foods. I think I even messaged my mom, "Can you make cinnamon rolls for me? I
right,
need some home
stew.
cooking."
You're all doing stew and rolls. I'm gonna start making bread, Mom.
I know. I bought like 5 cast like little bread pans,
Yes, but
loaves.
you'll walk into a store and you'll wonder why wherever you're at that you also want those little Skittles. Like, or
Yes,
the nostalgic candy, maybe it's like
like
saltwater
razzles.
taffy. Yeah, we'd go to some little fair and the saltwater taffy or the cotton candy. Why do we want those things? We want to still feel, and we can bring that little, the innocence of, but
Yeah.
the creative mind, the mind of a little kid that sat in a box at 4 years old and was like, "Hey, I'm going to the moon," or "I'm
Yeah.
I'm heading off to, I'm going to fly my airplane." Whatever it was, the imagination was the
Well,
world.
that's one thing
And
I honestly loved whenever I first started dating Jerome, is that he took me to all his favorite like childhood spots. And it was just the little things for me because I mean, I was like so welcoming into his world. I'm like, yes, take me on all these adventures. But he would bring me to the mall and he got me like his favorite cookie from America's Cookies and the little Annie's pretzels and lemonade. And he's like, this is what I used to do whenever I was little. And I felt like me and him were, even as if you are with a safe, beautiful partner or friendship, you can start to heal your inner child wounds together. And I thought that was so beautiful that he was bringing me into his little kid self. And I'm like, well, let me show you, some of the things that I like to do. And I started surprising him with like scavenger hunts because my mom would do scavenger hunts. And I'm like, let me bring you into my little child world of what made me happy. And you can find your love language even from things that you did whenever you were little. Those little
yes,
walks, those moments that you had with your family that meant everything to you, even if it was just the littlest thing, like you mentioned, little saltwater taffies. It makes you excited, brings you
I know.
to your little kid self.
Right. And you may have been raised in a home that both parents were MIA. Maybe the dad was the alcoholic, the mom was a narcissist, whatever it was, or she was really depressed because the dad was a narcissist. I hear that a lot lately where they'll say, "My dad was this way, really mean,"
Mm,
or, "and my mom
yeah.
was really depressed," as if they're not connecting the two. The
Yeah.
mom stayed in that paradigm and that's why she was so shut down. Or maybe the dad,
Well, there's
I've heard
studies
of a
that
lot of
show
moms that are way.
too that the not even just so much with the dad, but the happiness with the mom growing up is one of the most important things for a child to see because that will reflect off their happiness when they're older. So if you did see a very unhappy mom, that's might be reflecting in your childhood wound now. Maybe
Mhm.
that's why
The
you're very
depression, the
unhappy or
worry.
can't find happiness.
Yes. And so with the depression and maybe the home life, Ashley and I are talking about things because we did both have things that we could tap into that were fun. Like my mom and made holidays fun. We went out a lot on the weekend, like on a Saturday. That was the time we got to spend with our dad. He worked a lot and he had a lot going on. And so she would get all the stuff ready to put in the cooler and we'd go out in nature and we'd have family time, which was so, like, those are the memories. So that's one of the reasons probably I freaking love nature. I just
Yeah.
like I tap into it. But there are homes, and I know that people I've worked with and people I've talked to that absolutely they don't remember their childhood.
Mm.
They whatever's recalled is not good. And so you may just be like, this is a pen pal thing of, or the talking to yourself, what actually would you have liked to have as a child, and
Yes.
create that. Because if you really can't remember much of anything, there are a lot of people that never got a birthday gift, or you
Yeah.
didn't even
Or a birthday
recognize the
cake.
birthday. Yeah, there
Yeah.
was just, it wasn't celebrated, they weren't acknowledged. And so uh
And you
and
can even put that on your kids that you have now. If you
yeah,
have kids, do that for them.
yes,
There's little things in my childhood that I really needed, and I'm able to give that to Malay now. And
yeah.
even just the communication with Jerome, I'm able to give that to him now. Even just in my adult relationships, not even just child relationships with my little one.
Yes, and to take it even a step further, one thing that the therapist will recommend and that we've done is to, let's say you don't have any children and you want that feeling of, or you're in a situation, maybe like for me, I don't have any child at home right now. You can become and help out with society with the little kids out there that are being neglected or suffering, or you can go
Mm-hmm.
to a hospital where the little kids have cancer, or just in your neighborhood you're just really truly nurturing and loving. Or say you have a best friend, maybe you didn't ever have children, and you have a best friend and you absolutely love her children, and you kind of
Yeah.
take on that role, and you, the things that you wanted as a
Be the
child,
cool aunt and uncle.
yes, you're doing it for them and loving on them. And that's a healing piece too, is to give of yourself the way you would have loved to have had in a child form. And I know that a lot of times we get to be grandmas and grandpas and we're like, oh, okay, listen, we were kids raising kids, and then now we get to be like,
Yeah.
oh, okay, I'm enlightened now.
Oh
No,
yeah, it's so true. It's so true. I know there's so many things that I think that before I had Malay, there was like I could nitpick to death, and then once I had him, I'm like, I see why you guys did certain things sometimes. I see why you might have lost your cool just a little bit. Because
yes,
you're getting told, Mom, 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 and you're doing something, and you're like, hold on. And then all of a sudden, you go into the next room, and the toys are all over the place, and the dog's chewing on the cushions out in the backyard, and you just feel like your brain's going to explode. And I'm
snap, snap.
like, my mom did a really amazing job for keeping her cool with 3 kids and also babysitting and doing this and everything that she was doing. It was crazy. And I'm like, okay, I understand why there's a couple moments in my childhood where the steam blew off the top of the engine. I get
Yeah,
it.
and lack of sleep, and you have a newborn and 2 kids that are running amok because you're breastfeeding, and all of a sudden there's a flood in the toilet, and there's stuff coming down the walls upstairs, and I'm like, "What? I'm so tired. I can't handle this."
You're
And
like,
I
can you
think
just sit down for 5 minutes?
for me, it was, for me, I remember I still can have some visuals of me as a parent. We had 2 stories, and so when I finally really had it, I knew I was at the brink of saying something silly. Like I was really going to say something ridiculous to my children that could have been damaging, like, you stupid motherfucker. I was like, cheese whiz, and then I would say, get upstairs in your rooms right now. I needed that cool off place. I just needed a cool off
Yeah.
place. For even 10 seconds, I didn't say that, and then I could hear the doors open and coming down the stairs.
But then remember,
And
you felt guilty after a while because you're like, you told me when you found something that if you told your child to just go to your room, then we learned how to cope
right,
with things by
by
ourselves. And you're like,
ourselves, and that's how I was raised. And so and so I broke that tie, and I had them sit on the stairs, the bottom of the stairs, and I said, let's communicate. I want you to tell her something that you like, Ethan, and you tell him you something like. And then it was and it broke the thing, and then it was like,
and then we made each other
what can
laugh
we do?
too.
Yeah, what can we do differently? Like, come on, let's not throw the car train that knocked her little
Not throw a high heel at his head.
right. Why did that happen? And so kids are just in their natural state, just feeling all these different emotions. And one of the things that I
Big
think
emotions.
that, yeah, when we go through the little inner child, it's so real. I think there are top 2 things that always hit me as I was starting to do the work is I was uh, more afraid of being afraid. So I didn't want that fear to come up
Mm,
of like doing the work. Like I would start to feel
yes.
those emotions, even if it was anger, but I was more afraid of that than to deal with it. So I was fearful of fear. It was so crazy. And once I recognized that, I was like, okay, bring it in. The other thing was, as I was walking through things, I found my voice. I would just be like, I need to be more consciously aware that I'm choosing to speak from a place of my spirit. I'm really in this moment and I'm speaking my truth that I feel is my truth. And I'm not going to care how these people react. So when you're doing your parent pen pal or everything, you might find yourself like, but they were really like, just I did this on this video. My dad is an amazing man and my mom is, and I've been able to do the full circle things. Like, listen, I had to find it. I let things rise up, and no, that wasn't right. But at the same time, recognizing where they were coming from, I loved that, because at the same time, I could see things I had implemented with my own children and things I had broken up with. And Ashley and I were laughing because things that were so-called little T's for me were, my parents were really wise with their money, actually, but I only got allotted. I had to dress a certain way that my mother wanted me to dress like, and I was like, I'm in the cool pants place. I'm in the popular group, and that she wanted me to wear a certain way, slacks or whatever. And so
after learning about the ego, we're like, oh, this stuff doesn't even matter.
I was babysitting at 10 and 11 years old. I was actually going to a home and just sitting where the babies slept, where these two ladies could go swimming. And I think I got paid $3 or whatever. So I saved enough money to get myself a pair of jeans. Well, that was the only pair of jeans I was going to get, because my mom was going to buy the jeans at the time. So I remember in 4th grade, they had holes in them. Literally, like, I didn't realize it, but I went out to recess and they had worn so thin in the booty area that they were about to be shredded to nothing. And same with my little knee area. And one of my really good girlfriends said, is that the only pair of jeans you have? Like, why do you always wear that pair of jeans? And I was like, that was a little T trauma that I wrote up. So I'm just kind of bringing up ideas of little things. So what did I do for my children? Hello, let me give you the earth, the sky, the moon. You're going to have about 25,000
let me give you every
outfits.
Dollhouse, and
you're not going to feel this pain
possible.
Right. But yet at the same time, my parents were wise with money, and I learned how to work and different things. But I'm the one that put the importance on people's opinions of me by, making sure.
Worrying about their judgment.
Yeah. So it's full circle. You come around and you start to see things in a different light. And but there are also some bigger things that are very big T trauma, where absolutely there was no rhyme or reason they shouldn't have freaking touched you, straight up,
or hit you, anything,
or hit you, or screamed in your face, or threw stuff at you. No, and emotional neglect is one too. I mean, that can harbor you. Like Ashlyn said, you go to your room, or you need a hug and you're trying to explain something so deep and hard that's happened to you, and it doesn't.
Or maybe you just didn't really grow up with your parents around. A lot of latchkey kids. I know so many kids that are like that, where they came home from school and it's just, and your parent, like we said, your parents are working so hard, but they don't see what they're necessarily doing. But you're there in your room and you don't have anybody. You're alone. And as a child, it's it's scary. And not being able to voice yourself to anybody and just alone in your thoughts, it can become very depressing as a little one.
Yes.
Just like your process was, mine was very similar as well. It was, the process looked like for me, like, first of all, like you said, the recognition, seeing my triggers and arguments and discussions. So go back to our previous podcast to learn more about that. But I ended up leading this into curiosity, like Curious George. I was starting to ask myself questions, like, why am I feeling this way? So anytime something gets brought up and you feel triggered, feel like lashing out, you don't know how to handle your emotions, fight or flight mode, where does that pain lie? Why am I feeling this? So just this month, be so self-aware in all your relationships. Why am I feeling like this? Even whenever you're alone. Maybe you were left alone and you're alone and you're like, why am I feeling this? That's probably why. And the next step after asking your question to myself, I really felt the deep pain and just the fucking resentment towards that person, where I was like, how dare you treat me like this? Why didn't you care for me as a child? Why didn't you freaking protect me? You were my guardian. Why did you not protect me? And I got so frustrated and I felt it. And you can learn more about that in our Letting Go podcast. And that's the time where I screamed in my car. I screamed in my car. I journaled everything out. I wrote down my entire, we talk about it, our pain body book, the burn book, and I was able to release it. And like, the path of this is not like, oh, it's just you're going to have one direct path, or just
Mm-mm.
it's one time thing. No, but you'll have breadcrumbs, like I said, but the path will be like this, like, oh,
Yeah.
like a little fish going upstream, like, oh, you might swim back a little bit. That's okay. Just keep going. Just keep swimming. And then after that, forgiveness and healing will begin to go hand in hand,
Yeah.
where you heal and that forgiveness and compassion for that other person will meet up. Sometimes you won't understand. You will not understand sometimes why they did what they did. Whew. And I remember thinking I wanted to talk to that person or those specific people, if it's more than one person or one person that you're coming up in your head right now. They might not be alive right now, or they might just be so unconscious that you're going to bring something to them. It's out one ear, in one, out the other ear, and it's going to go nowhere. And my mom had to tell me, I was like, Mom, I want to talk to this person about this. Like, I need to release this. And you gave me like the most beautiful advice. If you
Yeah.
wanted to.
You, I'd experienced it myself, and it was that you had used your voice several times and gotten kind of gaslit or shut down, and or expressed, and then see like this is going to be different, and then it wasn't.
Yeah, so
And
many times.
so I just said, there's a part where we're trying to change somebody and change the story and control everything, and it's not our place. And if anything, you're just going to get re-injured. You're going to have it even deeper embedded in your subconscious mind that um, the person is exactly how you are portrayed. It's still in your brain. And so there's an intuitiveness that that it's just time to stop going and like casting your pearl before the swine. What was
Mm,
it? Not that the person's a swine, but it's just it's pointless. You're zapping out your energy. And I told in my situation the person, they said, well, it's over and you need to get over it. And I'm like, no, because you never ever heard me express how it made me feel. And you never
mm.
heard me say how upset I was that you didn't like protect me and listen and believe me, like literally believe me.
Yes, yes.
And I was this little innocent, and I came so many times to tell you the truth, and was told that somebody else's opinion or whatever was out there.
Or that
So
never happened. I feel like
it
that's the
never
main thing.
happened, or I don't remember that ever happening, or I don't remember it like that.
Mm-hmm.
And then I got angry in that one moment, and it's very rare that I ever have done that. And I think I put a shocked look on that person's face, and I said, no, you're going to sit here and you're going to listen to me. You are
Mm-hmm.
going to sit here because I want to feel heard, and maybe
Mm-hmm.
you will not hear me, but I'm going to speak my truth. And
Yeah.
when we were done, it was still put back on me.
Yeah. The gaslighting, or you're lying to
And
yourself. I feel like
I,
that's another one.
but it made me recognize why it felt like such home in my relationships later on in life, you
Mm.
know,
Yeah.
and why, I mean, it just really brought a lot of things up. So it was therapeutic for me to do those steps, but was I going to ever go back and give even an any ounce of my energy into that? I was trying to make a certain individual see how damaging it had been and how it literally changed the path in my life.
Mm.
And it was going to a person that didn't want to hear it or take
Mm.
acknowledgement. And that's okay, because that's part of that person's personality in the first place. And so I had to move forward. After that, I did, right after that, probably was when I was really inspired to do the pain body book, because I'm like, you know what? if I'm really going to go down the road to these people,
Let's dump this stuff out.
yeah, I'm not. I just feel like I'll dump it here, and I've asked questions from certain individuals to confirm scenarios because they were present and they had the exact same scenario as I
Mhm.
did, but it's actually quite more intense. So it just validated for me that I felt and experienced like
Well, it can
what
feel like
they
a
did.
can of worms sometimes. You know, you open up the
Yes,
can and one worm's wiggling out, and you're like, okay, okay. And then you pull on one and that's hooked to another, and you're like,
yes, yes. And
ah.
so when you're really going to that inner child, there's so much part of you that you're going to have to take responsibility for, like rewriting your story, not even rewriting because who wants to write the crap story? Just you're going to write a new story. You're going to be a new avatar, a new heroine
Yeah,
of your
a
life.
whole new book. Yes.
Yeah, and I keep on having this image for the last 2 days about this because we did the podcast, and I have this image that comes in my mind that for whatever little T's, big T's that come up, you can just think of it like you have IVs, but they're not really IVs. They're literally like strings that are attaching to these people, and you're giving them your energy force.
Yeah.
But if you want to take it and you don't understand necessarily that, you're giving them your blood, your lifeline, you really truly are, because holding on to certain things, I've seen account after account after account of individuals that will talk about how they got cancer. They didn't, they were like, say, really still holding on to so much with their father, and justifiably, but still holding on and staying stuck, getting cancer. There was a man that was coming to my mind right now that got cancer in his leg, same place, and had chemotherapy, uh, came back, and then came back like for the fourth time.
Wow.
So at the third time, in between that time frame, he did a lot of work, and on the fourth time, he was like, "I'm done."
Mm.
It's like think of it as you have these cancer blotches on you. Do you know what I mean?
Mhm.
Like it's sucking you. It's not like, and it's like Ashlyn said, it's this. You'll think, oh man, we're so good. I'm not gonna have anything happen. You think this
Oh,
whole thing,
yeah. And
and
even
then
in Eckhart Tolle's book, too, it talks about, oh, you'll think that you're so healed, but get around your family.
yeah,
Oh,
go
that
around your
brings up so
family.
many wounds.
Oh, and
Little
I
kid self
literally
comes
would,
out.
I would literally go and do that and recognize how I would do certain ways because of their reaction to who I was truly being. And then I would do other things. And I'm like, I literally had to be
Yes.
so present because my ego would ignite and my pain body would start to emerge. And I'm like, okay, I'm being reactive here. And before I would do anything or say anything, I'd be reactive. And even when I was telling you about going back and doing that hurt situation, once that I've been I said like, and you heard, and I got the reaction that had been my reaction through my lifetime. The bear had been poked. No,
Yeah.
you're going to sit here and listen to me. I'm going to raise my voice to you, but I'm going to, and I didn't really, but I was like, I was adamant it was going to go down.
Yeah.
And because I felt like I had done so much work to find my voice and to know that I deserved to speak things out. But so if you do still have that person or these people and you want to have a relationship still with them, you can do that. But like Ashley and I looked through our journals, and this is something we want to bring up because I found I found my girl 12-year-old journal. It was a
Yes. We were
little
always
green
constant little
fabric one.
journalers.
And then I found other journals, and then I noticed that legitimately you look at the 5 major things that maybe you were concerned about between the age of 12 to 21, and you can see the hamster wheels you've created,
Mhm.
because we are the
Yes.
creators of our life by the choices we make, and they might be a lot of them unconsciously done. So we feel like a victim, or like things because they keep on repeating. But took out my journals. I was trying to find something specific, probably about a year ago, and I took out my journal, all my journals. I probably brought out about 20 of them. And I was trying to find one page, and I literally was engulfed by, holy crap. Like from 6 months to 6 months, I'm kind of writing the same story up until about 2021.
Mm-hmm.
And it was a lot of the things to check out with, I guess, like
Mm-hmm.
nutrition, like, you know, losing 3 pounds or whatever, being this or that. Um, it was very focused on, it literally showed me my hamster wheels is what it did. That's what I'll say. It showed me my hamster wheels, and I'm grateful for it. I'm so grateful that I kept all those journals,
Yeah.
like 50 of them. But I was grateful for it because I'm the changer. I'm the one that's going to make the change. I'm responsible for it. So I could sit back and be like, okay, no, 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 no. And we're going to show you some
And
future
trust me, there was
episodes.
so many tears let out whenever we were writing these journals. I am surprised that my journal is not completely just soaked with tears
Right.
because there was a lot of things written down. There was a lot of countless crying phone calls to my mom. That's why, having this community or finding a friendship therapist, somebody that can really talk to you, that's not going to just put you on medication, but really
Mm-hmm.
talk to you and listen to you is so important. Being in that vulnerable space is
Mm.
so beautiful. Even just crying in your car to work, put on your favorite childhood song and just start crying.
Right.
And there is like, I feel like Taylor Swift was like my girl back in the day for like my teardrops on my guitar and love story, all those songs. And I sometimes will just play those little kid music and it brings me back and I'll just start crying and or never grow up. I remember singing that to Malay when he was little and I was like, don't ever grow up, and I'm crying mostly to myself. You don't grow up either. And letting those tears out, letting it flow. And yes, it can feel so freaking scary opening up those floodgates of tears. Because if you've never done that
Mm.
before, it's gonna be a lot's gonna pour out. You're gonna have a floodgate, and that's okay. We're meant to cry
We were
and
given crying
feel.
for a reason. It's
Yes,
literally a release. It was given, even if it's gratitude or such deep love or
yes.
connection. But yes, I remember times that Ash and I would talk, and I said, I don't know if I haven't stopped really crying. It's been 3 days.
Hmm.
And it would go through a weekend where I had so much given to me. There's so much of the crying was actually immense gratitude because I could see how the wiring in my brain and how my
Yes,
perspectives in
I
life was
agree.
shifting, and how God was just showing me, this is what's next. This is
Yeah.
what's going to help you next. And this is, and you're going to share it with the world, and you're going to share it with the world, and you're going to share it with the world. I'm helping you. Like it's just a network of how you're going to share it out there. And, that's part of doing the work too. You're doing it for your family. You're doing it for your generations to come.
Yes.
Uh, but you can have it be joy filled. It don't like add in a lot of the childhood stuff and everything. And the journaling should be, I don't know, like a science experiment. Like you're really
Yeah.
getting to know
Well, you
yourself. I
end up
mean,
like, towards the end of it, and you really find that compassion for
mm,
everybody. You
you
really
do.
do. It's
I
sometimes a long time coming, but you do.
Well, that's what I was thinking today, is that there were some things, if I could do it over, they would have been faster. And that was not letting, so say I started to feel fear, or I could start to feel the anger of some certain person that I'd gone through something that really had taken me out. And I was kind of going through the emotions of like releasing, but I would only let it get to so far before I hurry and like checked out, put it on the bookshelf, or
Yeah.
try to stuff that stinky fish back down in the
I'm
pond.
gonna go and
Put it
eat a
back
whole
down. I don't want to
freaking.
smell it. I
I'm gonna
don't
eat
want
a
to
whole
smell this.
cake.
Yeah, I don't want to smell it. Right. And so as I started to really witness how I was self-sabotaging my own growth and evolvement, that's when I really got real with like, oh, you know what? I hear that if I just let this fill, it won't last more than 3 minutes. I think I can handle 3 minutes. Like literally just let it rush in.
Yeah.
And it was kind of crazy as I was doing that because it released the resistance, released and let it kind of be more of a flow state. And even though I might have cried because my brain was programmed to freak the crap out, um, and then I was like, oh, so the more you practice this, I'm telling you, and I have so many people that can say the same thing, is the more you like just let your emotions really be there. Okay, this really sucks. I am by myself. I kind of want to turn on YouTube right now. I want to turn something on, but I am by
On the
myself.
Netflix Bridgerton.
Yes. And that's where I think if you're doing something, not just sitting there trying to meditate when you're in such a dark place, start writing that out. You can even memo it. There are times I was driving in the car
Mhm.
and if I could play this, I would, but I'm going to be so truthful. I'd be driving and I'm like, okay, I'd get my memo because I couldn't write. And I'd say, wow, I'm feeling really off this morning. And I always would think, I like to reflect about the day before. Because if it's early in the morning, what was I watching TV? What was I eating? Like, what did it do? Why is this coming up? Is it the weather? Not that I'm
Mhm.
trying to do this whole huge science experiment on my drive to wherever I'm going. But then I'd get my memo up, I'm feeling off, and I'd start to talk to myself, right? And I would find myself sometimes, I put my hand over my mouth because I probably shouldn't say it, but I'm just kidding. I find myself in total freaking rage, which, oh,
Oh,
hello.
thumbs up.
So the computer talks to me, but I let it out in a voice memo. So it doesn't always
Yeah.
have to be in
Don't
journal.
write for thinking that someone else is going to read it. Just
Right.
write it.
Just write and
Don't
get rid of it. Right.
exactly.
And so I think I had you listen one time, Ashlyn, to one of my things. We were sitting next to each other. You came into my office and I I had started several of my memos of just feeling like my spirit wanted to leave a message. My spirit was uprising and wanted to speak to me. And going back on those memos, I'm like, wow, it was telling me something to share with the world on Instagram, telling me a quote, showing me a visual of something. And I literally was hurrying, grabbing my phone to leave the memo. Even in the middle of night, I'd have these dreams that when I first got out of the cycle of the abuse, I had really vivid nightmares. And I'm leaving this here right now because I think there's somebody that needs to hear this. Is that um, I'd go to sleep and I didn't feel like I was sleeping. I felt like I was lucid dreaming. And but my nightmares seemed so real. And there were certain individuals that were always inside this house. And as I did my healing process, I was in a shack in my healing. We found like beat up couches, and that individual was there, and I'd have certain family members there almost always in these dreams. And I was being gaslit like crazy. Why is he even here?
Mhm.
Then I'd go to, as I was recovering and coming into my own real truthfulness and healing, then I was in a little like grandma's house, like a little thing. Um,
Mhm.
at times I was, uh, it just got bigger and bigger. So then I have a dream that I'm in this humongous mansion. It's pure white, and there's loved ones there, and there's just so much going on. And reflecting back on this, I had asked, like, what? That there's meaning behind this, isn't there? And it's really healing from within. And you have these dreams and these nightmares, but when you're doing the work, things get better. I still have some dreams here and there, but they're so rare. My lucid dreams are just absolutely beautiful. I'm shown a lot of things, but I don't have those nightmares anymore. In fact, I have the most beautiful fist pumping, healing, forgiving myself, forgiving these people. Like it's a full circle thing. Like, so I hope that anything I've said here doesn't come across as um, I don't hold on to those things. And I'm not saying names for a purpose to shame or blame anybody. It's
That's
a
yeah.
walk that I had to walk, but I'm saying it so that maybe you can recollect some things that you've gone through in the forgetfulness of your youth. uh, all the time I hear, I don't remember my being a child. I don't remember very few things. It's just been shut down. And so I looked at it as if everything's been swept under the rug, and you're going to lift that rug up, and you're going to find the little, maybe hairpin for the little girl, the little bow. You're going to find, there's going to be little storage
Little
messages
baseball
there for
hat for the
you.
boys out there.
Yeah, don't have them be scary. Don't have them, don't think that they're bigger than you, because your spirit is mighty, and to bring it forward into the light is where you get to heal, but also your inner body, creating like an ease, a peace within your body. My It's just been my experience with so many people and myself that just stay consistent and just know that it is a roller coaster. It's so much of the walk Ashley and I experienced reflecting back on this is we really did keep on thinking, we had the brain of destination. Oh, we're done. And then
Mm-hmm.
something would hit. Oh, we're done. And we also did a
Yep.
blaming game along that way, and guilt. Well, we must be doing something wrong, because why are we experiencing this again? No, it's called layers. You didn't have 18, 20 years, and now you're going to take, 4 weeks and be like, shh, we're done. We're good. It's
Yeah.
just, but it's easier. So that's what I can promise you.
Well,
It's
the
easier and help
deeper
and
the
better.
as a child, it's such a deep wound because
Yeah,
it's been a long time and you've been on that hamster wheel, and it can be a lot of peeling back the layers, like you said.
right. And it's a decision. And so, congratulations and big pats on the back and everything else if you're deciding you want to walk that, because not everybody in this lifetime will.
Yeah.
And that's okay. That's okay too. I mean, it's just a choice.
I
And
feel like there's something coming to me at this moment that if you are watching this right now, you're supposed to do it. You're supposed to go through this process. This video just didn't come up to you and you're like, oh, okay, that's cool. Next. No, like really listen and walk through this process. You didn't just stumble on this by coincidence. This is meant for you. Go through
yeah,
the walk. It's so worth it. And like you said, when your dreams become better. Like I've mentioned before with letting go, I don't feel rocks on my chest. I don't feel like the weight of the world's on my shoulders anymore. I've After releasing so much, I see everybody in a different light, but I also see myself in a new light. And I had really bad dreams too. I was so angry. So angry. I had terrible nightmares and terrible dreams of me doing things to people that have hurt me.
mm-hmm,
And that's another sign that you need to heal.
right,
If this video isn't enough, look at all the past 7 signs on our previous video. One of those has to resonate with you. That's why you're here. You're part of our community now. Welcome, join. You're stuck with us. And that's why you're watching this. I also had this beautiful visual come to me whenever my mom and I decided that we wanted to talk about the inner childhood wound. And I was just meditating, laying on my hammock, and my mom and I don't go into this just roughing and meowing. We actually come into this prepared and asking God, the universe, the divine, what we need, what's our message? What do we need to share that we've even gone through or that needs to come to us in that moment? And so I was able to take a few notes and it really hit me. And I remembered messaging my mom, like, I don't know where this is coming from at the moment, but I'm just going to text you and voice memoing you all this stuff that I'm feeling right now because this is such on my heart. And I know this is meant for you guys. So when I envisioned inner childhood healing, I wanted to bring a visual to it because I know all of us are such visual. Well, not all of us, but most of us are very visual. When you're in school, you wanted to see the pictures. You wanted to see the exact step by step. It's hard just looking at a book and being like, oh, okay, these are the steps. That's what I do. So picture yourself as this plant. The soil you were planted in can tarnish the fruit you grow. So maybe you might have little bugs in your thing, or maybe your soil's no longer fertile. Your soil's all dried up and it's just, maybe you're growing in sand. And this contributes to a bitter taste in yours and others' mouths. This is why it is essential to recognize your beginning roots to heal your soul. So that bitter taste can be, like we mentioned, on being overreactive, not knowing how to handle your emotions, so many different things that come from inner child wounds. To produce better fruit through thoughts and actions, that's what we need to do, is we need to alter our brain. We need to reprogram and, like I said, recognize what we're doing, asking ourselves those questions. So once you observe that, you need inner child healing by noticing your bitter fruit. Maybe there's someone that has come to you and said, hey, your apple's a little, has a worm growing in it. There's a little bugs in it. Or your strawberry is this or that. And you recognize it within yourself by how you're treating other people around you. How you treat yourself. Like we said, with binge eating and self-harming, if you're doing those things, you have very bitter fruit. Your roots are rotting. Your soil is not healthy. And once you notice that, does it leave a feeling whenever you're triggered? So that's how you know you have that toxic soil. So after that, it is our job to alter the soil. It's not, like we mentioned, we can't go and ask Jim Bob down the road, hey, can you go to Home Depot for me? Pick me up some soil. Jim Bob's not going to do it for you, all right? You're going to have to do it yourself. You're going to have to go and get that beautiful pot now. You're an adult. You're not a little plant anymore. You need a big vase or pot, or even maybe you want to just be grown in the earth. Whatever you're envisioning right now, go with it. And because we can't blame our previous gardeners or planters, your parents or guardians, for where they planted you. And I realized this even in my own life, that with the people in my life, we have to forgive them, for they did not know better. I'm not saying to hop over the resentment or pain, because that is part of the process, honey. You're going to have to feel that. You're going to have to feel the pain. It's part of the journey of our human experience. Beautiful, I know. We all love feeling pain. But we know now that we were not grown in a healthy environment, soil. They didn't know how to take care of us. We can grow stronger now when we decide that we want to go get that pot. All right, you recognize it. You go get that pot. You put the soil in, and then you're going to have to dig a little hole to put yourself in. So you're going to feel a little pain during this process. You're going to dig the hole, get inside, and you're going to put yourself in there. But that's not just it. You can't just leave the plant like that. Everyone knows, we've all learned this in first, second, third grade. What does a plant need? Sunlight, water, protection, nurturing. That's what you're going to do for yourself now. So yes, it's okay to feel that resentment. We're moving on past that, and we're not going to stay there. Let's get our Hulk together. And this is a part of the process, to feel the anger for not being protected and not being grown to our specifications. You're like, you were a gardener. You grew me. How did you not know? I realized maybe our parents were cactuses. Maybe your parent was a little prickly. Your guardian, whoever raised you. And you were this beautiful flower. Or maybe you were basil. And if any of you guys are my fellow gardeners out there, that's another reason. I've really connected with the earth recently during my healing process. I've connected with the earth, and it's a beautiful thing. If I know so many of my friends that are walking through things, they've started to wow, it slows me down touching the earth. It's a beautiful thing, grounding yourself. And you were maybe that flower, that basil, and it's a very gentle, fragile thing. And your parents didn't know how to take care of that because they're a cactus. They were raised, and in a hot heat. They were put underneath that pressure. They didn't need a lot of water. But you needed that water. If you're in the southern states along with us, it's hot, especially in the summertime. Your basil and that gentle flower needs to be watered practically every day. A cactus, they can survive a pretty long time without water, as we all know. So they were not used to that. So now you're nurturing you. You're taking care of you. You're putting yourself in those roots and letting yourself blossom or be made into sweet pesto. And unleashing all this anger and everything, those from all those circumstances, and seeing that from that perspective of your parent being the cactus and you being this plant, whatever plant you pick, you can pick whatever. Leave a comment below. I'd love to see all your guys' different flowers and plants or herbs that you chose. But to hold on to this, it doesn't change your soil. Holding on to this anger and being resentful, it doesn't change anything. You're going to be stuck in that damn soil that you're still in. So reroot yourself. It can be difficult, yes, because if you guys have ever transferred a plant to another pot, I've just recently done this with my basil, it can wilt a little bit. It can be in shock from going into that new soil. Like, what the heck? Where are you putting me? Yeah. I'm not used to this, lady. But know that it will get used to it. Once you take care of it and you water it and you're like, I speak to my plants. I truly believe in speaking to your plants like you speak to yourself. Speak kindly to your plants. Speak kindly to yourself. Back and forth. And speak kindly to it. Say, you're going to grow so beautifully. I know that soil that you were in, darling, was not the best kind of soil. They didn't know better. Your poor gardener before did not know how to freaking treat you and protect you. But here, I'm taking you into my arms now. I'm bringing you home. Come here. Let's love on you a little bit. Let me give you a hug. Let me kiss on you, basil and flowers. Let me smell you. You know, and this is where we need to take control of ourselves. Parenting. And we learn, you learn how to. You were supposed to grow. You learn yourself. Now you know your specifications, and that will direct you to how others are supposed to treat you as well. Once you know your needs, we become the gardener. And once you are the expert on yourself, no one's ever going to have to ever take you down out of your roots again.
Right. I love that analogy, Ash. That's a great visual. Love it. Love it. And that can even so tie into how we started this video, where we were talking about talking to yourself.
Yeah.
You know, because you can talk to your animals, you can talk to your plants. You know, parent your plant. Like, you're like over there talking to your basil. You know, you are so cute.
You're so precious. You're going to grow so strong.
I'm so proud. Like, you know, just reparenting. That's a beautiful analogy. I totally was there with you in that. That's really good. Thank you. Yes. Little inspired girl. Big girl self. Mama.
I know now I'm the gardener of my own life. It's like you're taking control now. You're not letting somebody else come around and be like, oh, you need this much water. Like, no, you know yourself. Right. You drink as much water as you need. You fuel yourself for the day. That's when the codependency also leaves. Look at all this connecting together from our last almost 20 videos.
Right. Well, I'm thinking like this, ups and downs. Something that just came to me when you were talking about that is you can't stay on the same hamster wheel with the same people that are causing you to be on that crazy hamster wheel, the one that's keeping you stuck. So
maybe they're the beetle in your plant.
That's get them out. We talk about the relationships, recognizing it in our last video. You know, recognize it, and then when you're pulling it forward, as you're trying to do these really fun things, you don't want to be talking about Tim and Tommy. Well, I don't know. Like, I just those names came out of the blue, but so no offense against Tim or Tommy's.
No offense, Jim Bob down the street.
We just been seeing Sally a lot too, but to have them, I don't even know where I was at with that. I got lost with Tommy. So,
Tommy, if you're watching this, you're probably my mom's future husband. Okay.
We're going to keep this rolling because we have the fun side, right? So, anyways, don't stay stuck on the hamster wheel with certain individuals. Name those names. That's where it come to. Like I said, to bring myself down off that name.
So
Anyways, Ashley, do you have any more you want to bring to forward? I'm good.
Oh, I was just I think the last thing I have to say is that goodness, it's definitely, it's like we've mentioned, it's a walk. You got this. We're here for you. Follow and subscribe and
So worth
like
it.
and comment. We love reading comments, and
Yeah.
visit us at Now That's Love. We have beautiful merchandise to help you walk you through this healing, and journals as well. We provide it all. Like we are two, I was gonna say one woman, but we're a two-woman circus. We have it all going on over here. So check us out, dive deep in with us. Our mission here is to form a beautiful community surrounded by love in this exact moment. So
Right.
thank you guys for joining so much today.
And one thing that just came to my mind is that if you want to use a space in the comments to write down maybe something that you would like to choose, being the little kid self that you would like, that you're like, I'm going
Love
to do
that.
this. I'm going to implement this into my life this week. So just something fun, like, or whatever it is for you that you would like to try out or to do that you feel like you maybe had let go of or not, or maybe it's something you want to nostalgically go back to. Let us know. We'd love to hear from you. So
Yes.
much
Even just
love.
fun chick flicks. I think that's another one that's fun, is
Oh,
going back
so
on
there.
like all the girl flicks that we used to watch. Hello, Pride and Prejudice, and 13 Going on
LOL.
30. LOL, yes.
It was
There's
us.
But thank you guys so much for joining. We are so grateful for you guys as always, and we will see you guys on the
Yes,
next
much love.
podcast.
Bye bye.
Bye bye. That's so funny.